Hello there, and welcome to the Follow Your Stuff podcast. I'm Kevin Sylvester.
And I'm Michael Holenka.
And we are here to talk about Follow Your Stuff, which is our book, our companion book to our other book. Where did I put it? There, it cares. Reach by over there. See, this is live. This is actually the Korean version. This might come into our conversation.
Yes.
The Korean version of that book, Follow Your Money. And this is our new book, which is called Follow Your Stuff. And we talk about where things come from and where things go to and all that sort of thing. So, Michael, why don't we launch into it here? One of the trickier things that we talked about, and as a behind the scenes thing, we ended up having some conversations with our editor about how to deal with the topic of greed. And one of the things that can skew an economic system is greed. How would you define greed when it comes to a global economic system?
I think that greed would be defined as expropriating value that you haven't created. That's how I would define greed.
Stealing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I don't think that somebody who is particularly good, and let's use an example like the actor who makes a lot of money, who has a huge salary. I'm not sure that it would be fair to call that individual greedy, because through their efforts, they're generating a lot of income and a lot of work for a lot of other people. I think you would classify somebody as greedy is if they were taking something that didn't belong to them. I would say that would be where I would draw the line.
Well, we talked about this a lot. I used to be a sportscaster, and we talk about this a lot in sports because I've always argued that the players should sort of get whatever they can get. They're creating the content. They're creating the value. The system will have its own breaks and measures on how much is too much, I guess, in the end. But the way it came up in some of our research for the book was the whole idea that someone who makes money off our global system and let's say Jeff Bezos. Let's talk about Amazon, for example. The guy who just got valued at $1 billion or something like that, or his company did.
Oh, no. I think you mean $1 trillion.
Oh, trillion?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah, sorry, Kevin. Look at Kevin's knows so much about so many things. Kevin, he's worth $180 billion.
Oh my goodness. My goodness.
So $1 billion is you're putting the guy in the poorhouse.
I know. I apologize to Jeff Bezos, but so out of that, if people look at that money, obviously I undervalued it, but it's such a huge number. Maybe there's a bias that people are going, you can't make that much money without being greedy or without stealing.
And I think that there's an argument to be made for that. But what I would say about somebody like Jeff Bezos is that what he's done is he took a tremendous amount of risk and he set up this company Amazon and created this company Amazon out of nothing. And a lot of people have benefited a great deal from Amazon. Mm-hmm. People are buying books now they previously couldn't afford. People are buying things and furnishing their homes and putting, clothes on their children for prices they otherwise could not have done. So that would be the counter argument. He's created a lot of value and contributed positively to a lot of lives. And what he's done is he's really just, and this is the hard part to really fathom, he's just carved out a relatively small part of that value and taken it for himself.
All right, fair enough. And we'll talk about this in another one of our video podcasts here, but we'll talk about the idea. I look like I have a bit of a halo here. It's funny because when you listen back to our audio podcast, we recorded them in the summer.
Yes.
And there were crickets and cicadas like dancing around outside, and you can hear them on the podcast. Right now, I'll post a picture on the podcast. It's minus 8 billion degrees outside and it's covered in snow. So this is actually the glare off of the snow. All right, we'll talk about the idea, too, that part of what makes a company like Amazon so successful, of course, is that the scale, the possible growth of a company today is unprecedented, right?
Absolutely.
You never could have had the idea, the scale. We'll talk about this a little bit more in a separate one, but you just couldn't have had that scale. So in some ways, I'll ask you, is it possible that a guy like Jeff Bezos stumbles into a corporation with an idea and it's not his fault it got that big, like in some ways?
Oh, I think absolutely. I would be astonished if Bezos thought that Amazon would be the company that it is today. He was just, there was he worked hard. There was some good luck. There's timing. All of those things are coming together. And it's interesting, Kevin, you were talking about just, the sports thing a little while ago. when you look at the money that the NBA players are getting now compared to even a couple of generations ago, it has everything to do with that the NBA is becoming this really global league and this global brand. It's a little bit like that with even the Premier League, the English Premier League, the football
soccer,
league as well. Is that there's all these kids going around in Beijing and in Bombay who are wearing Liverpool shirts and Manchester United shirts, and so those players now are enjoying part of that value that's been created all over the world.
It's funny to actually you mention that. I have a book called Basketballology, and one of the things that surprised me doing the research for that one is that basketball is actually the number one participated in sport in the world, more so than soccer, according to their own internal numbers. And there's one huge reason for that, and we could do an entire book on this, and that reason is China. That China has glommed onto this as a participation sport.
Yes.
And there's so many people playing it there that it skews the numbers. It's not the number one sport anywhere else, really, but there's just such a big number of people playing it there that it's become the number one participation sport.
Well, and it makes a tremendous amount of sense because when you contrast the amount of area it would take to play soccer on a soccer pitch versus a basketball court,
of course,
it's just a tiny fraction of it. So when you talk about a heavily populated country like China where there's a lot of people in urban areas, yeah, you can get 10 people to play on a relatively small area. Whereas if you're going to be playing a real game of soccer, okay, sure, there's 22, so there's twice the number. But 7 times, 8 times the square footage, I would guess?
Wow.
Conservatively.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
So that makes all the sense in the world.
All right, cool. All right, so that's a sort of an intro look at greed.
Yes.
And you can listen to more podcasts. Just go to the Anik Press website, which is anikpress.com, and we will have more information. We're going to take a look at a whole bunch of concepts and issues in our book, which is this, Follow Your Stuff, here, and you can track them down on the website. All right, thanks. We'll have a few more for you as well.
Thanks for watching.